Now that you've got all your crockery cut up, and you don't have to cut all your crockery up, you can cut it up as you go, and you've used your double-wheeled nippers to cut them up. Now for those people that haven't got a pair of double-wheeled nippers and perhaps you're using a hammer to cut them up, that's fine as well. That will get you started in mosaics too. So if you've got all your pieces in a tray, I use a plastic tray like this. I like to spread them all out, and I have selected some, and what I tend to do is I tend to go through and select what pieces I want to use and then just lay them out approximately like this. Keep them separate, just makes it a bit quicker for me. But as I progress, I may not have enough here, so then I'll have to dip into this container or this container, which of course has larger pieces in. And then around me I also have some other tessera that I can use to add interest to the piece as well. So what I tend to do now is I tend to do a little bit of a layout. Now sometimes I will adhere the pieces as I go, and other times if I'm not sure what to do, for instance I have nothing pre-planned, so I will lay down a few items, and then when I'm happy with that piece of design I will then adhere that down. Now some people use a cement-based adhesive for adhering their crockery down, which is what I've got in here, also known as Thinset for its American terminology for cement-based adhesive. Other people may use tile adhesive, or some people will use silicone. I am not a silicone fan, but there are certainly other adhesives that you can use. So there are lots of alternatives out there for you. You just have to decide if your project is going to be inside or outside. So anyway, all I basically do when I'm looking at doing something off the cuff is I just choose the pieces I would like to start off with. Now, some people will say that when you use crockery, it all should be flat. And that's correct if you're going to be doing something that people are going to handle. For instance, maybe it's a pot plant. You need to cut those pieces fairly small so it wraps around the pot, and there's not a lot of jagged, well, there shouldn't be any jagged edges so that people could cut themselves when they're handling the pot. But in this particular case, this is just going to be an indoor piece. I have some Marmox board here, which is very similar to Weedy board, and it's only around about, 6.5 mils, something like that. And this is just a little project to play with. So I'm not going to have all my pieces flat, because I like to see some undulation in my pieces. I like to see some texture, and I like to see some undulation. So I'm actually using, parts of cups and plates as well, and I'm going to be using the foot of the plate as well to add a bit of interest. So although depending on what project you're doing, yes, your pieces should be flat, but in this particular case, no one's going to be handling it. So I'm going to be creating something a little bit different, and it certainly won't be flat. So you can use pretty well anything if it's just going to be an indoor project. Now, I'll just start off laying a few things. So this is a curved piece and it's quite large. So I really don't want this to be on the edge because it is quite a thick piece. So I'm going to actually put this in the middle, and that's what I'm going to be looking at. Now, I'll use the foot as well, which is this part here, and you could put that pretty well anywhere, but again, I'm going to keep this towards the center because it is quite thick, so I'm going to butt this up to that. Now, I'm going to use these two edges because they're a similar height, but also using the foot will create a bit of interest. So all I'm going to do is just put it like that, just something a bit different. Now, I am going to use also the flower part, and I'm going to use this hole. I could cut it down through the center here, and that would sit flatter. But again, I'm looking for interest here. So I'm going to probably just put that around in the center as well. So let's go there. And that kind of works in well. If I get my little thing here, here it is. This kind of works in well because this height is very similar to this, but it goes up into an angle, which is really good. It'll add interest. And then it goes up this way. And this height is similar to this height. So for me, this should be a fairly good start. But in saying that, when you're doing something like this that's off the cuff, you need to stay liquid. The idea needs to stay liquid, because you may want to, we might start off this way, but we may want to change that. So now what I'll do is I'll add some flowers, because these are quite high, and so these will work well with these high pieces. So I'm going to put that flower in there, and you just put it to what you think works. There's no rhyme or reasoning to this, except I am looking at trying to keep the continuity flowing. So I'm trying to look like, or I'm trying to have the piece look like that there is some element of design. So we have the flower here, and then when it comes down to here, these flowers then can take the person away, along with this here, because there's now undulation, but it also draws the person's eye into the centre. So that's what I'm going with. Now, we now need to fill up these areas here. So we choose, no, I don't like that, because it does allow some gaps, but there's a round here that could be difficult to work with. So I'm actually going to leave that out, and I'll try this piece here, because this looks like it could fit reasonably well. And it does. So there you go. So that can stay there. Now we need something, because this is now curved here, we need something that's going to be curved. That's not going to be long enough. That's not going to be long enough. That might work. So there you go. So we'll put that in there. And again, you just, actually what we might do, let's move that up. Again, you're just playing around here. There you go. And this is nothing fancy. It's just really an element of design, and a bit of playing with is really what we're looking at. Now, we might, we've got that in there. Actually, I might actually take that out. I might actually put that down in there, because otherwise that comes up too high for my liking, and I'll put that in there, because that works to that curve there. And then that kind of works too. But if I bring that down here, because that's about the right distance we want for in here, for this area here. So we'll bring that down to there. And this is what it's about. It's about playing. And there's nothing right or wrong with whatever you do, as long as you have fun. And I hope my hands aren't getting in the way here. I'm sure they are. Okay, so we're like that. Now, I've got this one here, but I'm really looking for a balance here. Oops. You know, like I could put that up there and cut that edge along that top there. And that would work too. But I like to be a bit different. Oops. Put that along there. So I'm looking for a balance here with this. Yeah, that looks all right. These might be able to go here. No, that needs to go there. Larger one in the middle. I've got this little gap here. Oh, what can we put in there? No, we don't want that. Whenever you're doing things too, it really is good if you're going to be using flowers or glass gems, is to do them in odd numbers. So use odd numbers, and that in saying that doesn't mean that you can't use even numbers, but odd numbers are just more pleasing and it looks just more natural, is what I'm trying to say. Not sure about that one. But anyway, we can leave it there. And of course, we can cut these things if we want to fit them better as well, like this one here. We can just put a mark in there, cut them off, cut that off. Just cut that off a bit more. That bottom bit as well. Okay. And we've got these pieces here. I thought these would be interesting to use. Now this is quite a high piece here, so I might put that at the back of the flowers, because then that, by having it at the back there of the flowers, it comes down, so I can use lower tess in here if I like that look. But that will help support the flowers as well. And I'm trying to spread colour out here too, so we could put that in there. But the thing is, I really like this area here, how it's raised. I think that adds quite a lot of interest to the piece. So whether we put that in there, which will also work. But you've got to think about, now this gap is a little bit more difficult to get a piece of tessera to work in that, although this piece would work. But this is quite flat compared to this area here. So we might chuck that around here. And although this now has a height here, but it's not on the edge here. So this goes down, this comes up. Not an issue. It will also add a bit of interest. But in saying that though, I wouldn't want that to be on the outside here. That's just my personal train of thought. So I think what we'll do is we'll stick some of this down. And what I've got here is cement-based adhesive, Thinset. And I'm using the baggy system because it gives me complete control. Now, I will show you, I'll put a video up the top here showing you, no, this side, showing you how I do my Thinset. But like I say, that's just my way of doing it. And that will also show you the baggy system as well, a nice easy way of controlling the Thinset. So I'm going to stick these down. I've got an idea. And I'll start here first. Whoops, wrong side. I'll do here as well. Bit dusty that. And we want to make sure when we're using this that it's actually not dusty on the back. You really want it to be clean. And don't worry about it squeezing out at this point in time. And when you're using Thinset, you're not pushing the piece down so it hits the substrate. The Thinset, you're sitting the piece of tessera into a bed of Thinset. So if I was to adhere this, I would not be pushing this right down onto the Marmox board. I would be adding the Thinset onto here or onto the Marmox board and pushing this in, but there'd still be a bed of Thinset underneath because the Thinset needs to wrap onto the piece. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I'm quite happy with all that, so I'm going to start sticking these down as well. like to get some more of these flowers. And these are off vintage, they're actually off candlesticks, and I broke them off. And they come in really, really handy. I do like using them. And again, I've angled this, so you don't have to have everything, you know, flat. You can angle it to just do what you feel you want to do. I'm only just going with the flow here. Oh, I like that. I like that very much. Everything just comes together. If you love using the materials that you use and the colours that you like, everything will just come together. And like I said earlier, there's no right or wrong. It's just really dependent on what you want to use. So what I like about this is that there's a bit of variety happening here. I've got this coming up from the edge, going up here to the foot of here. It dips down, and then I've got this straight bit along here, and it's just creating a bit of interest. So I think that works really well for what I'm trying to do here. I like this because we've got this raised area here and it dips down and then it's coming back up again, and it's just creating, I think it's creating interest. Yeah, that's the one. What do you think? I think it works. It's all finished and I'm really happy with how it looks, and I really love this colour combination that I've got going here. I think it looks really, really good. Now I know some of you out there may be going, oh my goodness, he's got a flower up the right way and a flower upside down on the bottom. Well, really it doesn't matter. It comes down to what you want to do. Not everything has to be up the right way or straight or flat or even. It's really dependent on how you want to create your piece. And it's like this piece here. It's the bottom of a cup, and all I've done is I've just cut it out. I haven't smoothed the edge or tried to get it smooth. I've just cut it out. And it's a bit jaggedy, but it really doesn't matter because it adds a bit of interest and texture to the piece that I'm creating. Now I do need to point out that this is on Marmox board, And if I was going to hang this piece, I would need to put the hangers on before I start mosaicing it. So I just need to point that out because that's very important, because if I was to hang this piece now, I would have great difficulty in trying to put hangers on it. So just remember that when you're using Marmox board or Weedy board, the hangers need to go on first if you're planning to hang the piece. So anyway, I hope you've taken something away from this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any comments, put them down in the comments section on the YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy.